Are you thinking about moving to the greater Austin area, but overwhelmed by all of your different options? You know, Austin is a very big general area, and that gives a lot of choices, especially for those people that are considering making a move based on things that are important to families and family lifestyle. In this video, we're going to talk about my top 5 favorite family-friendly areas. That's a bit of a mouthful, and who they're really good for and what it's like to actually live in these different locations throughout the Austin area. So by the end of this video, you'll know which areas could be a good fit for a scouting trip when you come to visit Austin, and which areas, might not be the best fit and you might want to avoid. Hey y'all, I'm Justin Rossi, and I am a local Austin real estate expert, but I'm also a local Austin native. I've lived here my whole life, and I love making these videos for families just like yours that are considering making a move to the greater Austin area and are curious about what the different areas offer and what it's actually like to live there. And who better to guide you through the process than a real estate expert that's actually raising his own family here. So to give you a little bit of a framing for this video, I'm gonna cover neighborhoods within Austin proper, and I'll also cover a few of the surrounding suburbs because that's actually how my relocation buyers shop. They don't just look at Austin specifically because there's so many great options in the surrounding areas. And by the way, I've got a little bonus Central Austin neighborhood that's super family friendly that a lot of relocating buyers often overlook, but they absolutely love it when they find out about it because it is just a few minutes from Zilker Park, Barton Springs, easy access to downtown. It's got a lot going for it, so stick around for that. So real quick, here's how I kind of picked these top areas, right? So first I looked at commute times and just general geographic location, access to amenities that are specifically kid-friendly. I looked at the schools based on third-party websites, not my own opinion, to avoid any steering, and then housing options based on price point and what you get for your dollar. When it comes to school systems, I use websites like Niche, Great Schools, things like that are all third-party data. And if you're really interested in taking a deep dive, I've got a video that's specifically about the Austin school systems, and I can also direct you at how to find these third-party websites and interpret the data for yourself so you can get a really good understanding of the many school systems here that make up the Austin area. So obviously there is no perfect neighborhood for everyone. Everybody's different, everybody has different goals. So I'm going to cover the pros and the cons of each area and show you the good, the bad, the ugly, and the weird of these Austin communities. So the first area that I want to cover is Circle C. Now, I spent a lot of time here growing up in the Austin area as a kid. I played disc golf at the parks, and I always felt really, really safe in the area. The vibe here is kind of a master planned community, but still within the Austin city limits. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there. It's well established, so it's great for families that love tree-lined streets, lots of parks that have large trees. You've got local pools. You've got kind of all the master plan feel and vibe while you're still really accessible to the city of Austin. It's got super easy access to Mopac, which is also referred to as Loop 1 if you're looking on a map. So it's easy for commuters that want to head north and south on Mopac. And it's also in very, very close proximity to the hill country here in Central Texas if you want to explore the outdoors a little bit more in the wide open spaces. So here you're going to find tons of community pools, parks, trail systems, again, like the Veloway. There's also tons of kid-friendly sporting leagues, swim teams, and just general community events. And then there's really easy access to shopping. You're really close to an H-E-B. You've got easy access on Mopac to downtown Austin, and you've got Escarpment Village, which has a ton of other shopping options, dining options, things like that. So let's talk about the real estate aspect of Circle C, right? So you've got kind of the older sections of the community that were built in the 80s and 90s, and then you've got all the way up to kind of more modern, newer builds. So you're gonna see a lot of homes kind of in the mid to upper price range with the general Austin area taken into consideration, with some properties actually pushing into the higher price points, just depending on, finish outs, updates, size, things like that are gonna kind of impact the value of the home. Now, property taxes here can be a little bit higher, but you're paying for a pretty much master planned community within the proximity of the city of Austin still. So you're not far removed from the city of Austin in one of the suburbs. You're actually here in Austin, but you feel like you kind of have your own little suburb. So you're buying into that proximity to Austin and that shorter commute time. A lot of families are drawn to this area because of the school system. Now, third party again, but niche.com ranks these schools in this area roughly about 8 out of 10 on a scale of 10. So definitely check out niche.com, great schools, and the independent school website for more details. But according to the third party websites, the schools here are really, really good. So a couple of downsides with Circle C is, the higher price point. It's definitely not a walkable community if you really want that kind of urban core Austin feel. And the commute on Mopac can actually be pretty congested during rush hour, but again, that's relative. If you're from a place like LA or New York, San Francisco, the commutes here are kind of probably laughable. So the second area that I really want to dive into is the Steiner Ranch community. Now that's in kind of northwest Austin. It is very near to Lake Travis, and you're gonna find a plethora of different options there, but it's gonna be leaning more into kind of the luxury builds. So it's a hill country suburb that's on a peninsula that actually sticks out between Lake Austin and Lake Travis. So Steiner Ranch is absolutely great for families that want the hill country lifestyle, the great hill country views with easy access and a short commute to Austin employers, and access as well to the immediate kind of lake lifestyle that you get offered by being on that peninsula that kind of sticks out between Lake Travis and Lake Austin. You're gonna find multiple community centers with amenities like pools, parks, trails. So you're really gonna find an outdoor centric lifestyle, so to say. You're gonna see marinas, you're gonna see boat ramps and launches, you're gonna see an extensive trail system, a lot of, community centers, community pools, outdoor parks. That's kind of the core of its identity, I guess I would say, is, people that wanna live the outdoor hill country lifestyle with easy access to Austin. So jumping into the real estate, you're gonna see predominantly single family homes that are often larger than what you typically see, in the Austin area. So you're gonna get bigger homes that are great for growing families, and you're gonna see homes within, a higher price point because you're paying for that lake access, that lake lifestyle, and those big hill country views that we talked about earlier. So Steiner Ranch feeds into Lake Travis ISD, again, referencing niche.com, but third parties rank Lake Travis ISD as one of the better school systems in Austin, so it's definitely something for families to take a deeper dive into. According to these third parties, they have excellent schools in this area. So a couple of the negatives about living out here, or potentially perceived negatives, right? That's for you to decide. But some of these communities have higher HOAs. Again, that could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on who you ask. The other thing is you're a little bit further out there, right? So your commute times are gonna be a little bit longer, and the topography in the area in general, you're out in the hill country, you're out lakeside. So some of the driveways could be a little bit steep. Some of the lots aren't completely flat. So if that's something you're concerned about, it's definitely something to consider. Now, I love making these videos, but what I love more is actually connecting with people just like you. So if I can help with your plans in any way, shape, or form, don't hesitate to reach out. I promise I actually do want to hear from you. That said, I do drop videos every single week, so don't forget to subscribe so you can stay informed and up to date on everything that's happening here in the greater Austin area. So the third area I want to talk about is Avery Ranch. You're going to be, northwest Austin, kind of on that border where Cedar Park and northwest Austin kind of meet each other. So this area is for families that really want a giant, massive, master planned community. Avery Ranch was designed in such a way that it's just one big neighborhood with tons of amenity centers, community centers, pools, parks, trails, things like that. It's good for people that are kind of looking for a golf course community with that kind of suburban feel, easy access to the I-35 and tech corridors for commutes, and again, those community amenity centers that are really easily accessible throughout Avery Ranch. So it's also really close to the Lakeline area, which has tons of dining options, coffee shops, restaurants, shopping centers, grocery stores, things like that that make your life a lot easier when you don't have to commute really, really far to get those conveniences. So far as price goes, you're gonna see a pretty big mix. You've got single family homes, you've got condos and townhomes. So it's gonna start with, the starter style home and price point all the way up, kind of pushing on the luxury end of things for nicer homes that are more updated, have bigger lots, bigger square footage. So you've got options here. One thing to note is that different pockets actually feed into different school systems. You've got Leander ISD and you've got Round Rock ISD. So reach out if there's a specific area that you want to talk about, or if you want to know which areas feed into which schools. I'm here to help. A couple of the downsides here, right? So the 183 corridor can get really, really busy and congested during rush hour. So you're gonna wanna time your commute appropriately and accordingly. Another thing is there are some train tracks. So depending on where you're located throughout Avery Ranch, you're gonna wanna consider, you don't wanna be right next to one of the train tracks if the noise is gonna bother you by any means. And then some sections of this community can feel a little bit more cookie cutter. That's not a make it or break it for a lot of people, but it's definitely something to consider. So next, let's talk about a true suburb that a lot of people are really, really drawn to because of its proximity to Austin, but it's kind of small town vibe, which is Buda, Texas, which is where I'm sitting at right now. I'm at one of the awesome parks here in the Buda area, which it has a ton of. Buda is just south of Austin, and it's got that small town feel, but it is growing really, really quickly because people are finding out about the secret of Buda. So the area is great for people that, again, want that kind of small town feel with easy access to Austin. And you've got also, you're right on the I-35 corridor. So north, you've got Austin, and south, you've got San Marcos. You've got the shopping centers, the floating the river in San Marcos. You've got New Braunfels, and you've also got San Antonio, which is not that far away either if you head south. You're gonna find Buda has a really, really cool downtown Main Street area with tons of restaurants, bars, even music venues. So it's really walkable once you get into that Main Street area where you can kind of go spend a day. I love bringing my family to Buda. We typically go out for lunch and then we end up at a park like this. There's ponds, I take my son fishing. So it's really, really got that kind of family-friendly community, kind of smaller, less busy vibe. There's also plenty of master planned communities in Buda. So you're gonna have access to things like pools, community amenity centers, parks, trails, all the things that make, family life really enjoyable in a place like this. It's a quick drive to, more adventurous outdoor recreation like the San Marcos River. You've got the Blanco River a short drive away. So it's a great place to experience the outdoor lifestyle that Austin's known for. And if you like to golf, Onion Creek is literally one exit away from Buda into Austin. I might be biased because that's where I live, but I think it's a great golf course community. The country club there is great. So if you like to golf, Buda might be a really good option to stretch your dollar so far as the house bang for your buck and still being close access to a golf course. So from a real estate angle, this is where I find my relocating family clients to be really stretching their dollar and getting a lot more for their money. You're gonna get bigger houses, you're gonna get newer construction, you're gonna get better finishes. When you compare it to, buying for a similar price point in the core of Austin. Property tax rates here can vary greatly depending on your neighborhood and your utility district. So that's something that I always dive into pretty deeply with my clients before we decide on a specific home. Buda feeds into Hayes County ISD, which again, referencing third parties, niche.com, great schools give it about a B to B+ ranking for the school system here in the greater Buda area. Because there's a lot of different schools here in Buda, I always tell people don't just go off the ISD itself, but let's talk about the actual schools that an address feeds into before we decide and fall in love with a home. So this can kind of be seen as a pro and a con. You're right on I-35 corridor, just south of Austin here in Buda. So it can be a little bit congested during rush hour. So it's always something to keep in mind. What's your commute gonna look like? You're probably looking at 20 minutes on a good day. But if there's a wreck or if you're going during rush hour to get into downtown Austin, you could be looking at, 45 minutes plus. Now that could also be a positive because you're right on the I-35 corridor. So the upside for growth and appreciation and things like that, I think are really, really high here in Buda. Another downside is you don't really get that, big city nightlife. That could be a pro for some people, could be a con for others, but just something to keep in mind. You're not going to get a lot of clubs and things like that. It's kind of more of a laid back entertainment lifestyle here in Buda. The next community on my list that I really want to talk about is Dripping Springs, right? So if you've watched my channel for a little while, you'll know I was actually born and raised in the Austin area. I was actually born in Dripping Springs, and that's where my family's house still is. We've got acreage out there still to this day. So I might be a little bit biased, but I absolutely love Dripping Springs. It's known as the gateway to the hill country, and it's not named that on accident. It's absolutely beautiful. You've got tons of rolling hills. It is just stunning landscape-wise. So when you're thinking Dripping Springs, think dark, starry skies, rolling hills, larger acreage lots. You've started to get a lot of luxury communities out there as well. And again, third-party websites, but the schools are ranked really, really high out in Dripping Springs by all those third parties. There's also tons of distilleries and breweries and wineries. So there's a lot to do outdoors there. And all of those kind of drinking-centric things also bring a lot of really, really good good live music. Dripping Springs is great for families that kind of want a little bit of elbow room, right? Again, you're gonna get larger lots. The homes are usually often, especially the newer builds, bigger in square footage. Now you're gonna pay for it because you're paying for the beauty of the scenery and a larger home. But in my opinion, it's definitely worth the money. It's great for families that want easy access to outdoor activities. You've got Purdnell State Park, you've got Hamilton Pool, just to name a couple, but there's a lot of outdoor fun to be had in Dripping Springs. You're kind of in this semi-rural area, still within striking distance to Austin. So a few of the family-friendly highlights, so to say, about Dripping Springs is you're gonna have a strong identity for the community itself. You're gonna have tons of community style events. You're gonna have festivals like Dripping Springs Singer-Songwriter Festival, which is one of my absolute favorite things to go to all year. It's very, very tight knit, right? So Dripping Springs is a small town next to a big city. There's tons of youth sports out in Dripping Springs as well. Football's really, really big. You've got your basketball teams, your soccer teams, etc. So there's something to keep the kiddos active for sure. So let's switch gears into kind of more of a real estate perspective, right? You're going to see a mix of kind of master planned and suburban style communities. You're also going to get options that have, acreage lots. That said, price-wise, you're going to see everything from, the suburban style communities, which are a little bit more affordable, to, like those big acreage lots that we talked about that are super luxurious with giant 360 or at least 180 views looking over the hills. So it can vary greatly in the Dripping area. One thing to really keep in mind is in this area, you're gonna find some homes that are on public utility for things like septic and sewer, and then you're going to find a lot of different neighborhoods that are on a septic system. So that's why it's really, really important to work with somebody that you know, like, and trust that can help you kind of through the process and figure out, doing their due diligence. Are we gonna be on a septic system or are we gonna have public utilities? Many families and relocating clientele of mine really, really look into this area because of the school system and the fact that the third parties rank them so highly. It's just one of the things that really sets Dripping Springs apart. So as always, let's also dive into the negatives, right? We wanna compare the pros and the cons and make an informed decision. So the first thing on the negative aspect of Dripping Springs is it can be a bit of a drive into downtown Austin, right? You're far removed, you get the benefits of being far removed from the city, but you also have to deal with that longer commute. And 290, the major thoroughfare into Austin, can get really, really congested. Again, that's subjective depending on your view and where you're coming from and what the traffic is like, but it can get pretty congested and pretty bad during rush hour. Now, this next one is changing, but you're gonna see fewer big box kind of conveniences. There's a lot of construction going on in Dripping Springs, which is kind of changing the shopping and the retail options. But right now, you don't have a ton of different, big box shopping options. This other one goes back to the traffic, right? And the commute, and it can be seen as kind of a pro and a con. I actually really, really like it, but some of the roads are rural, so they can be winding, they can have a lot of curves, they can be really, really dark at night. There's deer, there's wildlife. So something to consider, if you don't like driving in the dark at night, then it's something you want to think about before you decide on where you want to live. That said, Dripping Springs has actually got a dark skies designation. It was, I think, one of the first in the US to actually get that. So on the pro side, the skies out in Dripping Springs are absolutely beautiful at night. We have a bed and breakfast out in Dripping Springs, and we aptly named it the Star House because you can see the stars in the sky and it is absolutely awesome. So as promised, we are going to dive into the bonus that I feel is a central Austin neighborhood that a lot of people really overlook when they're considering moving here for their family, and that is the Barton Hills neighborhood. So let's dive into the details. So the vibe of Barton Hills is, well-established, classic Austin. If you're looking for everything that Austin is known for and is synonymous with Austin, Barton Hills is one of my favorite communities in the entire city, or greater Austin area for that matter. You're super close to Barton Springs, Zilker Park, really easy commute into the downtown corridor. It just has a ton to offer. And it's also very, very easily accessible to outdoor trail systems and green belts. So you kind of get the best of both urban and kind of that outdoor lifestyle here. This area is really, really good for families that are relocating or looking for a, funky Austin vibe that is a little bit removed from the chaos of the immediate downtown area, but easily accessible, right? It's also super leafy. The homes are unique. They're all, most of them in the higher price point. So you're going to find a lot of really unique, updated, interesting homes, but they're not in a master planned area like you're going to find in some other areas, out towards Lake Travis or Dripping Springs. They're not as cookie cutter. For family activities, it's really, really good because of that close proximity to Zilker Park in Barton Springs. You could literally, super short drive, bike ride, or even walk to things like the Austin Kite Festival, Blues on the Green. All those types of really fun Austin cultural activities are really, really easily accessible if you live in the Barton Hills community. They also just put in a new trailhead at Barton Springs for the Violet Crown Trailhead. So you've got tons of trail systems. You've got, you can hike it, you can bike it, you can walk it. You can just go experience the outdoors and get a little bit of exercise in the process with your kiddos. It's just got this quiet residential street feel that's kind of tucked away and off the beaten path, while still kind of being close enough to the hustle and bustle of Austin. When it comes to, dining options, coffee shops, everything like that, you are really, really close to, a quick couple minute drive to some really great restaurants, really, really great bars, which might not be so family friendly, but definitely something that people take advantage of. Again, you're in one of these areas that is very unique because you've got that tucked away feel, but you're right next to the action. From a real estate angle, you're gonna see a pretty good mix, right? You're gonna see a lot of homes that have been built in the 60s, 70s. Some of those have actually been completely leveled and a new modern home's gone in its place, but you're gonna see a good variety here. And in my opinion, I really, really like the architectural styles that you get in Barton Hills. Price-wise, you're really gonna pay a premium for the location and the culture here. So, you're going to be thinking in the upper end of what we typically see here in Austin. But again, you're paying for that lifestyle and the conveniences just as much as you're paying for the sticks and the bricks of the home. It's a really, really good long play for buyers that want to hold the house for a long time and see a lot of really good potential upside in equity and appreciation. It's a long play. It's not something that you're going to buy and then sell in a couple of years. People move into Barton Hills to live there long term. Could also be a good option. You talked about the homes, some of them being built in the 60s and 70s, for people that are willing to take on a little bit of renovation. Now, you're not going to need to renovate every single home in the Barton Hills area, but if you want to buy a home for a little bit cheaper and kind of finish it out and make it your own, could be a good option. When it comes to schools, niche.com gives all the elementary, middle, and high school here in the area a really, really high rating. Again, if you want to dive into the data for the schools, I can point you in the right direction and kind of show you how to interpret that. And you can kind of decide what's a good fit for your family based on your needs. As always, let's talk about a couple of the potential negatives for this area, right? So your higher end price point because you're paying for the location. It can also get really, really congested because of your, nearness and proximity to Barton Springs and Zilker Park. Zilker is the house of ACL, right? Austin City Limits Music Festival. So during times when there's a big festival going on, Austin Kite Festival, Blues on the Green, things like that, it can really get pretty congested for a neighborhood community. Another thing on that negative list is, they are potentially older homes. So underneath the pretty skin, there could be, future maintenance problems, plumbing issues, things like that we really want to make sure we get a thorough inspection before we move forward with actually buying one of these houses. It holds true for all houses, but it holds especially true when you're looking at houses that have been built in, the 60s, 70s. So if Barton Hills sounds like your live where you play vibe, then reach out to me and we kind of discuss a realistic game plan and what your dollar and budget would realistically get you in a community like Barton Hills. I actually come across every once in a while off-market opportunities that don't hit the big websites like Zillow. So having an agent in your corner like me is a great opportunity to potentially get an offer in on a house before the general public has a chance to even see it. So how do you decide which one of these areas is actually a good fit for you and your family? When I'm talking with relocating families, I always recommend people start with, commute and lifestyle. How long of a commute are you looking to actually be willing to work with? And what kind of lifestyle are you looking for? Then we'll layer in things like the style of the home and your budget, how big of a lot, how big of a house, and what types of finishes are you actually interested in? Because you're gonna spend most of your time at home and you want to enjoy it. And then next we'll dig into the schools and the community amenities and just, what it has to offer so far as family activities. A lot of my relocation clients You know, we kind of come up with a list of must-haves, nice-to-haves, and absolute deal breakers. And that's what I help people with, right? So we come up with a game plan that is custom tailored to exactly helping you find what you're looking for. If you're looking for a little bit of a shortcut, you can text the word reload to the number on your screen, and I will send you my ultimate relocation guide for the city of Austin from a local's perspective that really knows the ins and the outs of all the different communities. And I know it sounds weird, but again, I actually make these videos for an opportunity to connect with people just like you, so I can help with your plans and help your family find the best home for them and make a smart move in the Austin area, not just a move. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I drop new videos every single week that'll help you stay in the know when it comes to Austin in general, the market here, upcoming projects, upcoming developments, everything you need to know if you're considering relocating to the Austin area or the greater Austin area in general.